Serious, previous homophobic people, when did you realize you were one and what changed your mind? My views changed quite a bit from being a Christian to an agnostic atheist. Also had a friend I went to school with who was gay the whole time and did not know he was. Also worked with some awesome people who were gay. I saw how these people were getting treated and it disgusted me. No one should get treated like dirt because of who they love. I realized it was from the environment I lived in, and that was from a conservative state. That is why, despite being an independent, it is a huge reason why I do not like Republicans at all. Biggest set of judgmental assholes I have ever met. Sad thing is, they cannot comprehend how much they are hurting someone. I cannot change the way I used to feel, but at least I can feel good about how I am now. Attention. Serious, tag notice jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit /message/compose/?2=r/askReddit, if you have any questions or concerns. I just started thinking for myself. You see, I come from a very religious family. Everyone around me hated gays. I'd hear stories as a kid about how gay people are actually pedophiles who prey on young kids. I also heard how homosexuality is a severe sin. All that typical bullshit. But when I was 14 I started to watch a lot of atheist YouTubers and listen to religious debates. In the end I realized that there is nothing wrong with being gay. It doesn't cause any harm to anyone. I also realized that you can't really choose to be gay or bisexual. Interestingly enough, I was super supportive of LGBT rights even before I became an atheist. When some girls in my junior high were really nice to me, and then started hitting on me, and I liked it. It came at about the same time where I was wondering about the wisdom of the churches I was raised in. I allowed myself a bit of weakness, and learned very quickly that I was definitely bisexual and also polyamorous. But at the same time I had been very strong in my faith. And at some point along the way someone told me that God would lead me in the right direction. So I trusted in that in the face of these confusing feelings. I prayed and trusted God to lead me in the right path. I was young, but what I determined was the God I believed in was a God of love. I could not truly be a child of that God if I refused love just because of the words of men. So I forgave myself for what I once thought was a sin. To this day I don't deny faith, or the idea of a creator. I just see it differently. A creator is vast, far beyond the fears of men. Love and unity are what give humanity strength, and if there is a creator, that is something they support. The fears of homosexuality come from men, that includes women, not from a divine source. I reject the teachings of men. I trust the teachings of the God I chose to trust. Love comes before everything, and the gender of lovers has nothing to do with it. That was honestly beautiful to read. The whole "I believe in a God of love" was just amazing. I hope that you continue to do what makes you happy. I realized someone else being gay has nothing to do with me, and realizing the hypocrisy behind claiming to hate racism while hating a demographic at the same time, for something they had no choice over. Furthermore, my niece come out as trans. I refuse to let my ignorance dictate our relationship. I have a question, but if you don't want to answer it, then that's fine. Did your niece come out as female to male or vice versa? Even though I'm trans myself, I have the absolute worst time figuring this out, whether in person or in writing. When I stopped believing God was real, Christianity was the only thing making me think being gay was wrong. As soon as that barrier was gone, there was nothing keeping me a homophobe. I wouldn't say I was homophobic, but I was subjected to my dad's views, and I just generally believed him because I was young and he shaped my mind with stuff like that. As I grew up and matured, I learned for myself, and throughout high school I knew some really cool LGBT people, so my opinions changed as I experienced life for myself. As a Dutchman, I used to keep seeing gay pride, and the whole vulgarity and extravagant stuff just felt like a way to ridicule others for not being the same or something. I know, it's not a good reason, I just can't really put into words what it did to me. When my brother turned out gay and he was just a normal dude who fell in love with men, I realized putting everyone in the same group was wrong. Obviously. I was just ignorant and didn't think about it a lot. My first college friend came out to me and I realized how incredibly vulnerable he was and how difficult it was for him to say, as well as how human he was. To my credit, I just took care of him and that was that. It took another year or so for me to be fully aware of how toxic my views were, and another few years before I left Christianity altogether. Agnostic now. I don't know that I was truly homophobic, but I definitely had some problematic ideas, beliefs. I've done some serious ally work in the meantime, without making it about me, so I like to think I've made up for it. Hell, I'm a single straight dude living with a single gay dude and it's a non-issue. This is kind of how my experience went. Raised decently Christian. My dad and stepmom are some of the most toxic people on this earth and would make fun of me for being lesbian. Which I am not, I am very much straight. But it kind of made me think about it. I was so anti-gay and it bothered me when they would call me a lesbian. But what if I was lesbian? So I pretty quickly changed my mind and am now 100% fine with people who are not cis and straight like myself. Sometimes the whole gender conversation confuses me, but mostly I just don't care what other people are doing. If they are happy, that's awesome. Then college happened and I became pretty agnostic. Which is nothing to do with sexuality, just a coincidence. Trans person here. I can also answer any questions you might have. ContraPoints and Philosophy Tube also have some amazing videos on the topic. I was raised in a Christian family, and we never really talked about homosexuality or all that. In school, however, jokes would flow out my mouth and I would say some stupid shat. Later in my teenage years, I started to realize that I was gay and that I had just suppressed it in order to flee the fear of disappointing my parents. When I came out to them, however, they were supportive. Good for you. My dad had some pretty negative views / harsh words on the topic, so that's what I grew up being taught to think. Then when I was back / 13ish, I watched Tara and Willow in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and thought, what the heck, there's nothing wrong with that. Go Joss Whedon. Honestly just grew up a little, about 14 to 15 years / show. I couldn't pick a specific day, but I think I just stopped caring / minding what others do if it doesn't affect me. I guess I only realized it after I stopped being one. Hard to pinpoint a moment. I changed my mind when I realized homosexuals are regular people, as dumb as that sounds. I grew up in a very conservative Christian environment. I read something by James Dobson telling me that homosexuals wanted to outlaw heterosexuality and Christianity. I'd only ever been told about the most debaucherous pride parades. With that in mind, I became hateful toward homosexuality. At some point, however, I saw a documentary about a man, a pastor's son even, who was gay. It kinda hit me, like, oh, he seems like a perfectly normal person. I started to question what I thought before, and eventually I decided that homosexuality really isn't scary or bad. Well, for starters, I realized I'm bi. I was just parroting what other kids were doing. They were calling kids gay, so I did it too. There were some kids that were openly proud and I realized I was just being insecure. Decided to have my own opinion. Lifelong a lie, my teen son is gay. Came out last year aged 14. I'd known since he was a toddler. I'm a nurse and my colleagues knew this. Including the homophobic ones. When he came out, they still couldn't really see it wasn't a choice. It's who my son always has been. I've read the replies so far and I have to admit to being a bit teary. I'm so thankful the Redditors have shared their stories. Thank you all. Have saved to come back. Humans grow. We live. We learn. We must be willing to be wrong. You're a good mom. He is fortunate, unlike some other people. When I couldn't have my friend over for my birthday because she was black and my grandfather was racist, I realized he wasn't the shining beacon of wisdom I'd been raised to believe, and he could be so wrong. BC, my friend was awesome. I used to think I wasn't homophobic. Mom has gay friends. But then I realized a lot of my language and slang was incredibly homophobic. Not just that so gay, but sort of violent. I guess one of those nights I couldn't get to sleep, I sort of realized if I'm not going to be homophobic, I should stop using homophobic language in my vernacular. There's a serious tag on this post and I am being completely, 100% serious. When I was a child, I read a Beyblade fanfiction about how homophobia was bad, and it made me realize that I had to rethink the way I viewed the world. I was maybe 12 at the time, so Beyblade was fairly influential to me. I was not homophobic. I just didn't understand why a guy would want to kiss another guy. It felt icky to me. I grew up in India where I hadn't met or been educated about any gay people. Then I came to US and one day in Seattle, I saw two guys holding hands. They seemed totally smitten and in love. They did a quick lip kiss and said love you. It was a total awe moment. I was very naive as a child. Growing up in a homophobic environment, I just repeated what everyone else always presented to me as a fact and did not even dare to question it. Then at age 14 I went abroad on my own for a few months, where I could start over. I met different people, heard different opinions, and started to think for myself for the first time in my life. I finally understood that there's nothing wrong with being gay. When I came back home with a changed and improved mindset, I started being very vocal about LGBTQ+ issues and how there's nothing wrong with any of it. Ruined my reputation of being the quiet nerdy girl and branded me as that bloody SJW instead. Most of my friends stopped talking to me, but in return I met new friends who had similar opinions, half of whom later turned out to be queer too. Oh, last but not least, I also met a cute girl and realized I'm actually bi. That was 3 years ago. We're dating now and went to a pride parade together last week. Man, good for you. Fuck everyone who stopped talking to you. A gay co-worker called me out for refusing to shake his hand, which caused me to do a bit of soul searching. I grew up in the gay equals promiscuous era and was legitimately afraid about exactly who he may have been finger banging on his lunch breaks. Anyways, he was understanding and explained it wasn't the 70s anymore and gave me some Elin Harris books to read. Now I am a big fan of the gay stuff after reading a few. I grew up in a religious family and system that strongly judged homosexual people. My entire life and religion was built against it. The people in the church I grew up in used to say things like, the Bible says we should love them, that doesn't mean we should like them, or we love them so we should change them. In any case, I actually started going to a theological seminary to become a pastor and got thrown out because I asked too many questions. Forward about 4 years where I have made a friend and mentor in the Reformed Church. He encouraged me to go to the university where people in the Reformed Church study and is encouraged to do critical thinking. As a class we had to do a paper where we looked at homosexuality. During my research I realized that God made gay people to be gay people and it's as simple as that. Who am I to judge someone as they were made? As for the 7 texts usually used to defend religion against homosexuality, if you look at the Greek and Hebrew, as well as the context they were written in, guess what? It has nothing to do with our modern understanding of homosexuality. Today I'm comfortable with homosexuality because of my religion. The church I'm part of is in constant struggle with the topic but moving forward every day and marrying more and more homosexual people. TL Doctor, hated homosexual people because of religion, now I love homosexual people because of religion. I stopped after my sister came out. I also stopped being a church person at the same time, mainly the whole hating on a close family member because God said so didn't sit right with me when it was someone I knew. Removed. Which is why I left. I stopped being sheltered and saw the world/religion for what it really was. There is so much work they put into it to keep members in the dark. It doesn't help it was Mormonism, they double down on the gaslighting. It's like a common sense in my country that gay people are a joke because of the way they wear and walk and speak. We have tons of joke lines. Until I become a fan of several US idols and activists that I realized that I was pure mean. I stopped joking about gay with my friends. I stopped listening to religious rhetoric and started learning empathy for others. When I realized I was following the teachings of the church without questioning its ethics. Eventually, I saw documentaries about the LGBT+ experience of and realized the truth through compassion, a thing that most churches preach but don't practice. Also, I suppressed my bisexuality back then because said religion condemns it. I'm embracing it now, but I'm still not fully out. May I ask which church? I realized I was gay. This was way back when I was a teen. Because I could easily see myself attracted to a man, being gay seemed more like a life choice. It was in the same thought category as stealing. Sure, I could easily steal something, but it's morally wrong. Then I realized that women weren't really doing it for me, and then it eventually clicked that this isn't a choice. Kudos to you. I can only imagine how common that line of reasoning is among people brought up to believe it is wrong, and the stealing analogy is a great way to describe it. I was a little gay kid who hid my shame by aggressively hating part of who I was. I mean like, little, this was when I was maybe in the 7 to 11 range. I grew out of it when I was 12 and one of my very best friends came out to me as bi, and at that moment we both kind of had a same hat moment. It was my first time meeting another girl who was interested in girls and probably the first step in my journey of coming out. I didn't tell her anything out of fear, but I just sort of realized we were the same and that it was okay. I was 5 when I knew I was gay, if you all are wondering. I've never been homophobic, but I will always remember the moment my view on being gay was changed. I was having a shower with a gay workmate. We had a large communal shower that could accommodate 20 dirty, grubby steel workers. He was 40-ish and always came onto the newer, younger lads. I asked him why he never tried it on with me. Apparently I wasn't his type. I mistakenly thought a gay bloke would want to get off with any other gay/straight bloke. Our conversation opened my eyes.